Hi, I wanted to welcome Nadia and Beverly for our special guest today. We're going to have Ask Me Anything on onboarding for GitLab. So thank you, sales managers, for tuning in. And Beverly, Nadia, over to you. You want to kick us off?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, David. I'm Beverly, as you can see from my title on the screen. I've been with the People Experience team since the beginning of March in the capacity of team lead. We've been working quite ferociously on onboarding, so it's been a key area of focus for us. But contrary to public opinion, we actually do way more than that. We're also involved in transitioning and offboarding and a whole bunch of other things. But the topic of today's AMA really is onboarding, and we wanted to do a quick education session with the sales managers, answer any questions that you may have, hopefully get some suggestions in terms of things that we can potentially improve in the near future, and just take it from there. So if everybody's comfortable, I'm going to start sharing the slide deck, and then we can do a question session after. Ashley Jamison's going to be documenting for us today. Perfect. Can everybody see the slide deck?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so as mentioned, Nadia and I are going to be hosting this session. I'll be taking the lead on that. If anything gets too tricky, I'm going to throw Nadia into the deep end, which I think she's willing to do for me. I've thrown a couple of quotes in, and I really love this one from Chloe. It's about trust needing to exist from day one, and it really centers on a situation in which many of our team members are coming into GitLab and they haven't worked in an all remote before. And there is not that opportunity to pop your head into their cubicle, say hi and see how it's going, which makes onboarding that much more important. If you have a look at the biggest risks to GitLab, one of them is ineffective onboarding. And what we try and do from the get-go is creates a sense of self-enablement. And that really feeds into team member retention in an all-remote environment, and decreases staff turnover. There's nothing worse than having someone finally settle into their role after months and months and months only to say goodbye. And a lot of the time that has to do with a poor onboarding experience. Moving on from that, we've noticed that there is a growing trend in terms of incomplete onboarding tasks and issues, which is decreasing our intentions around self-enablement, and it's pushing up the number of queries and training requests that we have. If we can find a solid way to ensure every team member feels self-enabled and that they know where to go when they need something, it makes all of our jobs that much more easier, and I'm sure it feeds into the sales structure too. What we're looking for with this particular session is to really call for support from leaders and managers across GitLab. We're going to be hosting this session across all of the departments to really drive completion of tasks and closing out of issues and encouraging that self-enablement that I keep on mentioning. And what I'm going to do now is just do a quick overview of what the onboarding objectives are, who the role players are, and what the associated timeline is. We've got a couple of new initiatives that we're busy working on at the moment, and I'm going to obviously keep hammering on a little bit about that task completion because it is important. So what we're busy looking at right now is a pre-onboarding, which is going to see us picking up the process a little bit earlier on than what we have been. The intention with this is to obviously ensure team members are adequately prepared for what to expect. So we're setting that down from the get-go. We'll be having a very similar session with new team members, probably about 2 weeks before they start. And that's really to answer any question that they might have. Over and above this, we're busy putting an FAQ document together. We are totally open to partnering with anyone within GitLab, but particularly the PVPs around this, as many ongoing questions get routed in their direction. We're going to be providing resource links and reading materials, and we're going to have a little directory, which is also going to ease a lot of the queries that we often get on an ongoing basis. And then 1 week ahead of the team member starting, we've got this set down as a 4-day minimum. We like to have our onboarding issue created. The reason for this is that many of the other departments have role-based tasks. So where sales has an actual sales training and sales onboarding that's documented on a page in the handbook, some of the other departments actually input tasks specific to their divisions within the actual onboarding issue. So once that issue's been opened up, it then hands over to the manager, and that's when you would insert a couple of things, and you would also be then accountable for selecting an onboarding buddy at that point. Oh, sorry about that. Then days 1 to 5, there's really just, it is split into morning and afternoon. Morning would be the general onboarding tasks, which would be system acclimatization, getting used to the culture, reading up on the values, those sort of things, with the afternoon being focused on what would be your sales training or onboarding. And then from week 2 onward, it's really exploration. So the onboarding objectives in terms of the individual is obviously us getting them set up for success from day 1, acclimatizing them to the organization. So it's organizational socialization, exposing them to the internal systems, policies, ways of working, and then embedding the role that they're going to play within the greater organization. From a departmental perspective, it's obviously more niched into your areas of expertise. I have had a quick look at the training, and I've run through it with Tanuja, and there's a lot of content there. One of the things that I have had raised on an ongoing basis with new hires in the sales department is them finding it difficult to balance their time between the general onboarding tasks and that specific training, and you'll see there's feedback around that later on in the slide deck. And then from a strategic objective, we really want to promote attracting and retaining talent, and that's high caliber talent. It's driving employee engagement from the beginning of the journey, and then establishing a solid community of GitLab ambassadors and advocates. So the overview from our perspective at this point in time, I'm hoping to work with Josh and JC around this in the near future, is to obviously close out the accounts and paperwork, general tasks in terms of reading, setting up a calendar, getting yourself onto the team page. The security aspects, obviously incredibly important. Lean's done a lot of work in terms of access provisioning around onboarding. She is on this call if you have any questions around what she's doing with us at the moment. It's obviously also, we encourage social interaction. This is something that we've also got under review at the moment. We've had a couple of individuals say that they're not really comfortable doing social engagement and requesting coffee chats from the get-go. So we're looking at a social buddies channel that's possibly going to aid that. And then it's obviously introduction to Git and your workspace setup. Moving on, so there are a couple more stakeholders than what I've documented here, but because of it being us on the call, we're just highlighting the people experience associate. This is part of what we do ahead of the onboarding, so it is creating the issue, access provisioning, updating Bamboo HR, and reviewing the documentation for that particular new hire. In terms of the sales manager's role, it really is nominating an onboarding buddy, assigning role-based tasks which wouldn't necessarily apply to the sales department, and then doing a quick Zoom check-in, ensuring meeting invites are sent, team introductions and those sort of things. And then the onboarding buddy really then jumps in to do a welcome on day 1 and offer any support. I had a great onboarding buddy experience, and I think it's important to be mindful of who you select. So we have had situations where an onboarding buddy was selected that was actually going on leave, which sort of left the new hire in a vulnerable position. So it is good to just check those points when you're nominating someone, and obviously ping them on the issue to make sure they're aware of their role. The rationale for our onboarding is obviously to dog food GitLab, and it's a really effective way for us to do things because we're able to integrate with, there are a bunch of systems that we use where data is housed. We can sort of migrate information from the applicant tracking system to Bamboo HR. So there's a lot that comes into it there. Again, encouraging self-enablement, aligning to the GitLab values and ways of working from the get-go. And then the single source of truth is obviously massively important to us. And then, as I mentioned, automation and ease of use, and it is scalable and adaptable. We're able to also ping everybody in one single place, which is important. We have got an onboarding satisfaction survey that runs at the 30-day mark, And what we had this last month was a record high for the team, which was a 4.73 out of 5. So the feedback is predominantly good. It's very rare that we get negative feedback. Within this, the onboarding buddy is also surveyed and we get feedback around that. And we have got an incentive for the onboarding buddy of the quarter. Then I know that in sales, it's all about figures. So if you had a look at this quote, it's about how an effective onboarding process can actually impact revenue growth and profit margin. So if we can get this right, there are so many long-term benefits to it, and it's really about having a team member that's productive, that knows what's going on, that knows how to make use of the tools and resources that are available, and that really optimizes their time spent and how they go about doing things. I've got a bit of feedback here. So these are little snips that have been taken from the onboarding satisfaction survey, and you'll see that it really does lean towards time balance and wanting to have solid training and insights in terms of the actual company and how things are done before jumping straight into hardcore training in terms of their actual role. I know that's not always possible with every single role, but it is something that I just wanted to mention because I feel maybe we can start a discussion around that and look for a better way of us making this more possible. So I've got a couple of small points here that I've pulled across. I know that there's a lot of work going on in terms of where the sales training is housed at the moment. And then just in closing, I've got a couple of resources that you can click through just to thank Darren for the podcast and links that he provided me with for this. And we can now cross over to any questions that you might have.
Thanks,
Adam,
Beverly. Before we jump into the questions, I just want to say thank you again for not only joining this call, but also for all the positive improvements and contributions you've made to the onboarding process. And I'd be remiss not to say specifically thanks all of you, but specifically Lean for a lot of the automation she's done. I think sales managers, you can recall, even just a few months ago, it was more of an onerous task of things on the manager to either create an access request or even when we had templates. Still we're creating those, but Lean has automated all that. So I just want to say thank you very much for everything you all do.
Thank you so much, David. I'm sure Lean appreciates that. Lean is on the call.
Listen, open it up. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Super sorry about that. Okay, perfect. Adam, if you want to kick off and verbalize your question.
Yeah, sure. You mentioned in the beginning of the call, there's some incomplete onboarding tasks, and I was curious, is there any pattern? Is it like specific areas, or is it just kind of all over the place, right? I was just trying to figure out if there's an area we can focus on or try to fix or tweak something. That's all.
I think what we would like to do is sort of get the managers involved on a more ongoing basis to help us pinpoint problem areas. We are going to be putting a dashboard together that's going to allow us a lot more insight into what is not being completed, and we can start trending from there. That having been said, it's not in motion yet. We're going to be making more of a concerted effort to touch base on if we see a huge gap in terms of where something is not complete. I think at this stage, it's predominantly from week 2 onward where we're noticing things are falling off, and I think that's got a lot to do with the person really settling into their day-to-day role and onboarding becoming a bit of a sideline at that particular point. I hope that answers your question.
It does. It's good. Yep.
Yeah, Adam, I want to add, this is where we need all of your buy-in. Like we really need the managers that are supporting these new hires through onboarding to say, hey, go back to that onboarding and complete your tasks. And I'm going to need to check. No, I don't think the conversation should be, I'm going to check up if you've completed it, but instead like, hey, and ping me if you get stuck on anything so we can work through it together and make sure you complete it. Because I think what happens is they get pulled into their day-to-day tasks too quickly, and then all of the things we're trying to work on and to create this like values environment kind of falls away.
No, perfect.
So that's really, really cool.
I think a really useful way to see how someone's progressing with their onboarding as a manager is if you receive their completed GitLab quiz, which is very much around the product and the different tiers and whatnot. I know it's something that many people just kind of don't do and they don't make the time to do, but it was super informative for me. And I think that's probably the quickest indicator to see where they're at and whether they've completed that or not.
Thanks.
Perfect.
And then,
Tanisha? Sorry.
no, you're good.
Go ahead, Adam, if you have a follow-up.
No, I just had one other thing. I threw it in there, like, and I think Tim Eidecker shared this with me because I went from being here for 3 years as a seller into a manager, and engineering has like a onboarding to being a manager task. And I don't know if that's ever been called out or how often that even happens when people get promoted, but it was pretty helpful. I did not complete it, so I am one of those people that should have probably completed it all. And but it reminded me in this call today for me to go back through it, and there's some really good things for me to go do. So I don't know if we ever want to revisit that or create a sales version of that. It's very engineering focused.
It's really great that you mentioned that. Sorry, Nadia, do you want to jump in?
I just want to ask to clarify, is that the becoming a manager at GitLab issue, that training issue? So everyone that's not engineering, that is across the whole
That's
GitLab.
Across the whole of GitLab. And we've recently made a change there. So that previously would have been issued or allocated by the hiring manager that would be taking that person over. And we found that wasn't happening. So we've reallocated that to the people experience team. So Lean's actually busy with automation at the moment, or we're in discussion around it, where for people managers and team leads, that issue will automatically get created. And we're busy working with Josh and JC to update that actual training issue with some information around onboarding too. Perfect.
Well, I just been glad that that's been improved. And I will let others get to their questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, so my question, well, first of all, I want to say I love the idea of sending people a visual ahead of time, ahead of them starting, because I think when I first saw the issue, I was like, what is this and why is it so long and wordy? Like, didn't really know how to, you know, take everything in on my first day. You know, it was a little much. But my actual question is more enablement focused around the data. So how are y'all tracking like how somebody finishes? Are you just going through manually to check each issue? And is there any way that we can get our hands on that data as an enablement team so we can kind of put it into our larger plan of seeing how people do long term if they've completed their onboarding, both sales and general?
Okay, so at the moment, it is a very manual process for us. We have got a dedicated people experience coordinator. She's on the call. Her name's Alex. And she's reviewing and she's pinging managers where necessary to ensure that they're aware of the role they need to play and that the tasks need to be completed, and trying to create an awareness around that. What we're looking to do is work with the data team. So we've got a mock-up dashboard that we had a look at the other day, which will actually pull all of our open issues and be able to help us, if we can get the labeling right, to pinpoint specific issues, specific departments, specific managers, so that we can start trending that and sort of seeing how far that goes and where that goes. And it's not really to call anyone out. It's for us to, again, enable someone to really make use of the tools and the resources that are available. Does that answer your question? That is, so we're going to be hoping to have that set down in the next 2 weeks to a month, but we want to make sure that it's really impactful and well thought out, because there's quite a bit that we need to pull. Like I said, we don't just work with onboarding, we work with probation periods and a whole bunch of other things. So it is definitely a big area of focus, and we can definitely loop back to you once that's set in place.
Awesome. Yeah, we have the same issue with our onboarding process. It's very manual to track everything. So appreciate the challenge that y'all are feeling.
Awesome. Thank you. Hayden?
Yeah, thanks, Beverley. I see Nadia's answered my question. Thanks, Nadia. It was about our policy and obligation to either not allow people to start onboarding early, or we can. So those
Yes.
in the timeline there, the things that are listed as 2 weeks out and 1 week out, are they just things that we can send the new hire in advance, but there's no ask for them to complete anything? Is that what they are?
Correct. So we will have, as I mentioned, an AMA session in which they can all join the call, reach out to us, ask any questions that they have. The intention around that is also social. So we will be introducing them to other team members that will be joining at the same time or at a similar time. And then it's just pre-reading. So it's really a case of I mean, there are a couple of pages in the handbook that I've found a couple of weeks down the line from when I started that I would have loved to have been able to see from the get-go. And this concept was really based on my experience. I had quite a lengthy notice period, and I would have loved an opportunity to really get my teeth stuck into something, even if I wasn't necessarily working. So that's really the intention. And it's also just to make sure that they're aware of what to expect on their first day, because it can seem a little bit isolating and a little bit overwhelming in some ways, and in other ways underwhelming, because there is no one to sort of meet and have coffee with at your desk and do a little office tour with you. So there's a couple of reasons that we've come up with that concept.
No, that's fantastic. That's why I asked, because you know, even though there's no actions they need to take, at least they have the resources and they can consume at their leisure, I guess. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Hayden was
Thank
great
you,
at doing
Hayden.
that to me, right? Like, what you gave me all that stuff like weeks in advance. My first day was on site with a customer with Reb, so my coffee chat was live. Thanks, Hayden.
Adam, back when you onboarded, I think we would send onboarding 2 weeks in advance, if not longer.
It was great.
We broke all the rules.
I like the point that Hayden's bringing up there. There's a lot of good stuff that people are eager and would want to read on their spare time. Like, it's not a requirement, it's optional. If you want to dive in early, it was extremely valuable when you actually did start, if you were able to start early. Not a requirement.
Yeah.
But that's also something that we can partner with the sales team on, to make sure that for sales specific hires, we can include some of that content that's specific to your roles. So we can definitely have that conversation. Carolyn, I don't know if you want to start your question.
Sure. Thank you again for doing this. This is more of a question for just sales managers. I know there's some new sales managers on the call. Do you know how to, do you know what tasks are required on your end? Do you know how to find onboarding issues? Is there any additional enablement that we should do? And again, this is just safe space, want to make it easy and want to provide as much training and support as we can. So just, I don't know if anyone feels comfortable speaking up, but that would be helpful, or if they know exactly what they're required.
It's AJ. Can you hear me all right?
I can, yes.
Excellent. Yeah, sorry, I'm on a weak signal in the mountains here. But yes, I think we just need to be explicit on the onboarding issues and assign the appropriate ASMs, RDs, or whoever is onboarding the tasks they need to complete, right? So I know we have done that in the past. I've done that with a number of my folks, but it can be confusing within the master onboarding project or issue to what you actually have to get accomplished. So as long as we are explicit and we orient the new sales leaders and sales managers onto what their objective is within each onboarding project, and they have a clear understanding of that task itself, it may behoove us to do a refresher on that, right? Just to make sure everybody fully understands what's going on. So.
Okay. So maybe this is some. Yeah, go ahead, Nadia.
Carolyn,
yeah.
So AJ, I'm wondering if I can quickly share my screen. I'm going to take 2 minutes. I'm going to connect to the same call with my laptop. Sorry, I'm connected twice. I don't want to time suck, but I do quickly just want to show you what it looks like, because I think it is extremely explicit. And if it's not, by the way, I just got logged out of GitLab, and it's because I'm busy syncing 2 laptops and getting my new
by
one
the way,
started.
I give you this information with the fact that I haven't onboarded somebody in over 6 months. So if it's changed in the last 6 months, great, right? But go ahead and give everybody a quick working example, so we're all on the same page, right?
Beverley, can you screen share, because I just can't. I'm so sorry. GitLab is logging me out.
Fine.
I'm trying to get my Mac started.
I'm just going to open up the template and share that, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect. So if you can have a look here, you'll see that we've got the onboarding issues template, and everything is really explicitly detailed. So before start, accounts and access provision, we've obviously implemented the access provision templates with Lean support. Well, actually, Lean did the whole thing, but we've literally detailed step by step every single thing that needs to be closed out from a manager perspective, from an onboarding buddy perspective, IT ops obviously, and then people experience. There is not a manager task within quite a few of the days. You'll see that there's something on the second day, and then something on the 5th day over there. But the ask isn't huge from a time spent in terms of when I actually reviewed this. So if we could get this right, and by all means, if you pick up something within the manager tasks that you feel is obsolete and no longer needs to be included or needs an update, please let us know and we'll absolutely do that. But this is
much cleaner than it was before. Thank you for that, because before it was kind of like I was hopping all over the place to find the word manager, right, to understand my tasks. So thank you for cleaning it up. This looks a lot more sequential and easier to consume.
Excellent.
The old version was kind of a pain. You'd miss stuff because you just read too fast or whatever. So this is much cleaner. Thanks.
Okay. Excellent. The one thing that I do want to mention is that we're going to be placing quite a big focus on offboarding and transition issues. So a lot of work has gone into onboarding, but we don't want to minimize the importance of the other issues too, because particularly with onboarding, we've got a much shorter lead time in terms of closing that out. It's actually come to 5 days now, but I don't want to sidetrack the conversation with that. I think we're pretty much at time. Anyone else?
Beverly, this is Jim Riley. Quick question. If we see something on the onboarding or offboarding issues, what's the best way to communicate that back in terms of suggestions?
Ideally with a merge request is something that we generally ask team members to do if they see something and have a suggestion. That gives us an opportunity to review what your suggestion is and obviously merge it directly if and make any tweaks if necessary. Alternatively, if someone isn't comfortable with that, we have got multiple Slack channels and you can reach out to any of us directly.
Thanks.
I do also want to say anyone looking at the version history of the onboarding template would see we make multiple changes in a day. So it's no longer something we do weekly, monthly, quarterly. We're literally iterating on this daily, and every OSAT feedback we get that is something quite tangible, we go and change. So if it's something where someone says this one word made no sense to them, or this one section should come before this section, we go and change it immediately, and we take that feedback literally as it comes in. Our OSAT feedback actually comes to a Slack channel, and so we have a very close eye on that feedback and what's popping in, especially if it's a low rating, we can get on it right away. Hope that helps.
We are at time. Thank you again, everyone, for participating, and especially for Beverly and Nadia and the rest of the team for joining on. The remaining questions we didn't get to, are those okay? Can you answer those in the Google Doc? I see some for my team as well, too. Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for making this easier.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.